Hello again and welcome to another Mordian Glory Warhammer 40k video. In today's episode we shall be casting our ever critical eye over another 10th edition Imperial Guard datasheet. And once more we shall be taking to the skies in our flying metal boxes with a deep dive of the Valkyrie Assault Carrier. This iconic flyer has been a staple in our air fleets for many editions now, and a lot of Guard players have a soft spot for this aircraft. But the big question is it any good in the new edition? Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's chocks away, take to the skies, and fly right into today's episode. As is tradition, let us begin with a brief overview of what the hell this unit actually is. The Valkyrie is a well-armed and heavily armoured flyer which is used by the Imperial Guard and also the Scholar Progenium and also the Imperial Navy. In fact, it's used by a lot of people to ferry troops into the heart of battle. It's an assault carrier. It's not one for dropping troops off behind the lines and then they can march the rest of the way. Oh, no. It is going full tilt straight into the abyss, dropping the troops down, smashing the entire area, killing anything with more than two legs. Well, at least that's what the Commissar wants us to believe. And that's what it says in the fluff. But how does all of this line up in the crunch? What is this plane like on the tabletop? Well, let's take a cheeky gander at its stat line. Being an aircraft, it's got a minimum move value of 20 inches, but no maximum move value, so it can go very far indeed. It is toughness 10, which is actually very respectable for a flyer. Most of them tend to be T9. And then it starts getting wild because it's got a 2+ save and 14 wounds. Frankly, I think calling a Valkyrie an aircraft is a bit misleading because it looks like, to me, the Imperium has strapped a couple of jet engines to a house brick. Joking aside, the Valkyrie does have quite an impressive defensive stat line. I have used Valkyrie and Valkyrie chassis vehicles such as the Vulture in a few games, and I've even taken a pair of them to a tournament when I ran Pure Scions, and their durability consistently took my opponents by surprise, and I was unexpectedly impressed by how durable they were. That 2+ save means that las cannons are going to be still giving you a 5+ armor save, and the 14 wounds means that even if someone does get a brace of las cannons off at you, your Valkyrie might be damaged, but it'll still be flying. The enemy needs to treat this like it's proper main battle tank, and they need to direct the amount of anti-tank against it accordingly. If they see it as like a normal flyer, something that's normally like an Eldar one, or a light flyer like a Lightning, and they just throw a bunch of autocannons at it, it'll probably come through barely damaged, if not unscathed. Good for you, because it means your opponent's probably wasted a bit of shooting at it. So it is a tough cookie, and you can kind of chuck it into some dangerous situations and expect it to do all right. But it's not just its armoured hide which makes the Valkyrie noteworthy, it's also packing some heat. As standard, it comes equipped with Hellstrike missiles, a Militarum multi-laser, and it has its armoured hull, which is its combat weapon. Now, you can replace that multi-laser with a las cannon, and you can replace the Hellstrike missiles with 2 multiple rocket pods. Not twin multiple rocket pods, but 2 multiple pods. You can then, on top of all of that, just give it 2 heavy bolters. You're not replacing anything, you just get to give it 2 heavy bolters. It's kind of like strapping a pintle-mounted stubber to a tank or a Chimera. You just can add that on. So not only can it replace a lot of its weapons with better stuff, it can also just add on a pair of heavy bolters. They are actually door gunners, so for that reason alone, you want to do it, because then as you're sending your Valkyrie in and it's strafing people with heavy bolters, you can blast or sing from the top of your lungs, Fortunate Son. So we know we're going to take the heavy bolters, but what about those other weapons that I mentioned? Frankly, the Militarum multi-laser is a bad joke. It's got a 36 range and it's got 4 shots, but it's strength 6, AP 0, damage 1. I have fired many Militarum multi-lasers, sir, and I have yet to see them do anything. Over the course of several editions, I have fired my Valkyrie multi-lasers in an attempt to have them do something, anything. And I can say confidently over the last 10 years of me owning Valkyries with multi-lasers, over many, 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 many different iterations of this game, they've probably killed less than 24 models. So yeah, just if it's back in the day, you used to take the multi-laser because it was free. Now you're just going to swap that out and put the Lads Cannon on every single time. Not only is it just a straight upgrade, the Lads Cannon, with better range, better strength, AP, damage D6, it's not only is it going to do something, also very anti-meta, because we live in an edition of tanks and monsters. It is big old stompy things that are going around the competitive boards these days, and a Lads Cannon is going to serve you much better in that competitive environment than bloody multi-laser would. We then have the Hellstrike missiles. These are shit. There's no point in trying to dress it up. They are terrible. They've been terrible forever. They're like the multi-laser of missile and heavy weapon options. They're so tragic. You fire one shot. Now, it is a strength 10, AP -3, damage 6 shot, and it does have anti-fly 2+, but it's one shot. Not like the Lightning or the Avenger Strike Fighter, where you get to fire 2 shots. No, it's one shot. It's just awful. And it's purely the fact it just has the one shot which lets it down. And yeah, it's okay as like an anti-tank option, but if it had 2 shots, I would genuinely consider taking it, especially because I just said we're in this anti-tank meta, right? So every sort of anti-tank weapon you can get in there is good. But I think considering that the Valkyrie, and we'll get to this a little bit later on, is quite an expensive unit, having something that's just putting out 2 anti-tank shots, no. You might as well take a Lightning, you might as well take an Avenger, I'll take a Thunderbolt, and you'd get a lot more AT. And if that's so, I just don't like the Hellstrike missiles. They've rarely did anything, and it just comes down to the pure lack of volume. Yeah, the one Lads Cannon is only one shot as well, but that one shot is just a straight upgrade over the multi-laser. What you want to take is the multiple rocket pods. These are tasty, they're spicy. Firstly, you get 2 of them. So it fires, each rocket pod fires D6 shots, so that means you get 2D6 shots. Also, they've got blast, but again, because you've got 2 of them, each individual rocket pod benefits from the blast rule. So it's not like a Wyvern, for example, where it fires 2d6, but because it's one weapon system, even if you're shooting like a big unit of termagants, it's just getting the +4 from blast. Because the 2 multiple rocket pods are separate, you get 2d6 plus essentially like double blast. So shooting into a blob of termagants, you would get 2d6 plus 8 shots from the multiple rocket pod. To be fair, these are only at strength 6, AP 0, damage 1, so it's not an anti-tank weapon, but being strength 6 is very important because it allows you to wound light infantry, like guardsmen and little bugs, on 2s. Allows you to wound almost any heavy infantry on 3s, Space Marines and even Terminators. Wound them on 3s. But for me, most importantly, it actually allows you to do something against vehicles. The AP and the damage is not ideal. That's putting it mildly. But the strength 6 means that anything up to and including the equivalent of a Lehman Russ main battle tank, you're wounding on 5s. It's only the heaviest armor, like Rogel Dawns and super heavies, that you're wounding on 6s. And frankly, you'd need proper anti-tank for dealing with them anyway. So I just feel like the multiple rocket pod, it's got a lot of flexibility. You can stack wounds on vehicles with it, and you can shred infantry with it quite reliably. Putting all of this together, you have a somewhat flexible vehicle. You've got the volume of fire to deal with infantry, you've got the strength on some of those shots to at least stack some wounds on vehicles, and then you've got the Lads Cannon, which actually makes you a genuine threat to those armoured targets. Attention guardsmen, this is an announcement by the Departamento Militarum. Element Games is an official sponsor of the mordianglorytv channel. They offer up to 20% off Warhammer 40k and 10% off bolt action and other game systems. Use the link down in the description to save money and support the channel. Anyone not using the link will be referred to the local commissariat. Also, don't forget that if you use referral code TIM3921, then you will receive double store credit, saving even more money on your future purchases. That's all for now. Fall out! We then get to the Valkyrie's ability. And this is a weird one. I'm not going to lie, it feels very niche. Grav shoot insertion. At the end of your opponent's movement phase, one or more units embarked within this transport can disembark from it, provided every model in each of those disembarking units has the deep strike ability. Truthfully, it's that last bit which I think ruins the ability, because the only units in your army that have got mass deep strike are things like Scions. And they're probably going to deep strike in rather than using grav shoot insertion. I think it's cool that it does let you essentially have pseudo rapid insertion, which is kind of badass. But I have to say, it feels like it would be much more useful if you could use this on other units other than Scions. You could put a bunch of Ogrins or Bulgrins into a Valkyrie, bring it in from reserve or fly it forward, and then rapid insertion them out in your opponent's movement phase, which you might be able to use them to catch them off guard. But also, they're the kind of units that could survive being out of the transport. I don't know. It just feels like it doesn't really have much of a purpose. The one way that I figured you could use this is if your opponent has screened you out quite well, and you don't really have anywhere to deep strike in, you sort of predicted that at the beginning of the game, you could put your Scions in the Valkyrie, and then when the Valkyrie comes in, it has to stay 9 inches away, but the Scions could then disembark, and they would be getting like 3 inches closer to the enemy. I don't know why that would be good. Your Scions probably don't want to be that close, and considering it's in your opponent's movement phase, they then would have a chance to destroy the Scions. Doesn't feel great. Another option you could do is use rapid insertion on the Valkyrie to get it in a turn early, and then get the Scions out. That could be quite powerful, because then in your turn, Scions, presuming they survive, are in a place where they could start being a threat or taking backfield objectives. Then they've got the leg up, and they're like, right, we've got out 3 inches. Now we can move 6 inches. But it just doesn't seem to line up, because surely the Scions could rapid insert themselves and essentially achieve the same thing. Although they would miss out on the 3 inches of movement. I don't know. I genuinely haven't figured out a way to make this work. And I would really appreciate any thoughts that you guys have on grav shoot insertion. Am I missing something here? Please let me know down that comment section. To me, the best ability that the Valkyrie has is hover. You see, aircraft normally are kind of boned by the core rules of 10th edition, where they have to go in strategic reserve, and then when they come on, they're limited. Like strategic reserve, they can have to stay out the enemy's deployment zone, and they have to stay 9 inches away, and they just can't do anything. They're just very badly hamstrung. It's well known that the aircraft rules are a bit shocking. But hover means instead of going in reserve and acting like an aircraft, you can turn your Valkyrie into essentially a normal vehicle with fly. It deploys on the board, it moves around, it goes from having a minimum move of 20 inches to a maximum move of 20 inches. Just think of it as like an Eldar skimmer. There are advantages and disadvantages to going hover. Of course, the advantage is you actually get to use the Valkyrie from the get-go, and it is a fast transport. It'll be your fast transport, even faster than things like the Taurox. Disadvantage is it will be restricted by terrain. But it does have flies, so it can go up and over terrain. But you might find that this thing struggles to really navigate, because if it's got quite a wide wingspan, it struggles to navigate very terrain-dense boards, especially things like WTC terrain. Also, it doesn't get the benefits to line of sight that aircraft have. It essentially becomes like the rest of your ground-based unit. So putting all of this together, overall, I think the Valkyrie has got a really impressive stat line, and I think it's bringing some decent firepower to the table, and it's got a good transport capacity. It can transport 12 models. Its ability is a bit weak, but hover at least makes up for it. However, there is one big fly in the ointment, and that is the Valkyrie's points cost. It's 190 points. That makes it more than a Russ. Makes it more than an Exterminator, which is like the best Russ we've got. You can almost get 3 Chimeras for 1 Valkyrie. They're bringing a lot of good firepower. and a lot of good transport capacity. Frankly, it's just too expensive. I think that even with its good defense stat line, the Valkyrie needs to come down significantly. I'm talking 150 points. If you made it 150 points, I think it would be an attractive option because it's still going to have all of the baggage of being an aircraft. And if you put it in hover, it's still going to have to struggle a little bit with that big wingspan. But it actually feels then like it's a tough transport. And for guard players, it would force, I'd even say maybe 140 points, which might seem crazy low. But I think then it is a choice for guard players. Do I take 2 Chimeras, which have more transport capacity and a comparable amount of firepower, but less toughness but more wounds, and they're a bit slower? Or do I go for the Valkyrie, which is going to be tougher, but have less transport capacity, about the same amount of firepower, and might be a little bit faster getting around with fly? But hell, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Are you a fan of the Valkyrie, or is there another flyer that you prefer? And what points value would you give to this aircraft? If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to smash that like button. It really helps with the YouTube algorithm. And of course, subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian glory hole, today is your lucky day. And joking aside, I do want to say a massive thank you to all of the current channel members and patrons. You guys are amazing, truly the lifeblood of the channel. I could not do Mordian Glory full time without the incredible and generous support of my members, so thank you guys so much. And last but certainly not least, I want to say a personal thank you to all of my top tier Patreons. These are the War Masters, and they have truly gone above and beyond the call of duty. So a big shout out to Bon Vert, Mad Larkin, Marcus Roberts, Mark Panconi, RJ Scorpion, Swordfish Trombone, John Stubbs, Nick Walsh, Diesel Fox, and August Varney. Thank you guys so much. Your incredible generosity is a massive part of how I'm able to do Mordian Glory full time, and it is a big driving force behind the channel. But I hope you all enjoyed today's video. Thank you for watching, and of course, as always, I'll see you guys next time.